This meeting is being recorded.
All right, that's just a quick brief.
All right, cool.
Yeah, go ahead, Umar.
Yeah. So we have our interview and Q&A, and then team member highlight with Mehul, and then we're gonna do our closing remarks, and yeah, that's about it.
So, Umar and I already introduced ourselves, but a quick recap on what we did last time during our seminar. So we had one guest speaker last time and two student speakers. Our guest speaker was Dr. Philip Paniker, who joined us from NYU Abu Dhabi. He has done both an MS and a PhD in aerospace engineering. And he was just talking to us about his research in space mining and the field and the growth, essentially, of space mining, and also about space exploration in the future and how, the industry is growing in that direction. And then we had Gabriel and Umar, two students from our international team, discuss their journey as high school students exploring astrophysics and aerospace. So yeah, we're just gonna sort of jump right in to Aryan. Aryan, if you would like to quickly introduce yourself.
Yep, sure. Everyone, my name is Aryan. I am a DIA alumni from the class of 2021. So that means I graduated almost a year and a half ago. I'm currently studying mechanical engineering at the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. This is my second year that just started about 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I guess some of my hobbies and interests that I love, obviously I'm really interested in math and physics as academic subjects, but outside of the classroom, I really love F1. I'm passionate about renewable energy and sustainability. I love working out, doing calisthenics, and I'm also I love playing football and running. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and excited to take part.
Awesome. So if I can just jump in with the questions, you said, you're a DI alumnus, we know that. And obviously you've been through the IB DP program. And if you could just, I know you said your hobbies were in math, physics, and all that, but what exactly were your HLs and SLs throughout the IB?
Yeah, sure. So I sort of took a pretty common path at the time. I was I did math, physics, and economics HL, right. So it's like math analysis and approaches. And for my SLs, I did Spanish ab initio, English, and design technology.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Could I jump in and ask a question? Yeah, so some people watching this might have Michigan on their list. So they might be interested in what sets you apart from the rest of the applicants. So could you talk about any extracurricular activities you did in high school?
Yeah, of course. Throughout high school, I was part of our high school football team. I was also a member of our athletics team. I did track, so 100 and 200 meter sprints. I did debating through MUN or Model UN. I don't know. I did a lot of things that I thought were interesting and useful at the time that I'm not so in touch with anymore. But I was also like a member of our in-track club at school. And I can't remember much, but it's pretty much just doing things in and around the school community that I thought were interesting. But definitely a lot of sport involvement, as well as involved in helping other students other students in my year group and below, and helping support teachers as well. I remember I was helping our high school counselor at the time assist with just helping and reaching out to students with the whole application and university admissions process. Yeah, and I guess what sets me apart, it's a very weird thing to think about, but I guess working hard is a good thing to have. It's a good thing to start in high school. It takes you a long way for sure. And just being able to like work hard and just talk about your experiences in a comfortable way that tells people that okay, you're worth something and you have done something, and you want to do something more as you grow up. So yeah.
Nice, makes sense.
Just sort of latching on to that. I mean, you mentioned um, the subjects you took and then your extracurriculars, and obviously, like, that's a lot. Like you've had to do a lot throughout high school, and with DP, it's not easy to always balance, extracurriculars, school, and sort of your social life and everything outside that. So, for our viewers, what exactly are your tips as someone who's gone through it and come out, successful? What exactly are your tips for time management and sort of navigating that?
All right. So I like to begin answering this question by prefacing that I'm still pretty bad at time management.
Okay.
It's like definitely something that I'm trying to learn and go about each and every day. Uh, and I guess that's part of the answer as well, that there's no perfect way. There's, I guess, always more like time that can be managed better. Um, but I guess the most important things is, with DP specifically, just staying on top of deadlines, super important. Of course, do that. Uh, like as much as the teachers say it helps them, it really helps you because you don't have to like worry about stuff like way past, like it's way past when it should be done already. Um, and I guess a few important things that I think: take time for yourself. Do whatever it is that interests you or allows you to relax and unwind. And like the big one is that can happen easily is stay connected with your friends and your family. They're like your friends, they're all on the same boat as you. Everyone is going through similar challenges, similar difficulties. So, you know, they're great to just talk to, they're great to be around with, and your family, of course, because they understand you, they want to support you, and take care of you too. So it's a mix of all those things, and also just you have to work hard, but you also have to not work hard too, and that's an important thing.
On the subject of workload, as an engineering student, how has your workload been?
Right, yeah. So I'd say for me personally, I find it to be, it doesn't take up a lot of my time, and that doesn't mean it's not difficult. It's just like sort of my personal approach and how I feel towards it. Um, but it allows what I'm doing right now. I'd say if you want to quantify it, it takes up, let's say, 40 or 50% of my time and energy, and the rest of it I can sort of spend towards doing stuff outside the classroom, whether that's spending time with friends, going out, or just chilling and playing video games. That's, you still do that stuff in uni, and it's still a lot of fun. And I also, like, I'm in a project team at here at Michigan. I basically work with about 30 other students, from various parts of the country and the world. And we design a car that is meant to optimize fuel efficiency. we compete every year at this competition where we run the cars and basically go the same distance in a fixed amount of time and see who consumes the least amount of fuel. And yeah, my part of the team is sort of working towards the engine side. Um, and we basically just try to optimize fuel consumption and maximize efficiency. And those are just some of the things I do outside of studies and work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, what I was thinking about, and of course, Umar, must be thinking about as well. Like one of the things that we're tackling right now as year 13 students is college applications. And, that's something that everyone always has their own inhibitions about. You know, what do AOs look for? What's should I be having, this kind of an activity? How much do the grades really matter? What if I, don't meet the grades that I want? Things like that. So what are your sort of like tips for tackling, the Common App and like the US college applications? And how that experience was for you?
Yeah, for sure. Again, this is something, the whole admissions process that all of you will go through. Um, I assume all of you are still students, so you'll all will go through it at some point. It's still a mystery to me. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of things that may make sense that will not make sense too. And best thing you can do is just apply to as many as you want and see how it goes. But as for general advice, I can speak for US universities. I didn't apply to the UK. I did apply to Canada, and I think it's pretty similar along the lines of US. And they also care about grades a bit more. Um, but specifically to the US, I think it's about showing sort of a roundedness as a human being and and an individual. I'd say having good grades, good academics is always a good thing. You know, pursuing interests out of classroom and sort of doing something about it is also a nice thing. You know, being part of sports teams is another big, huge one. It really playing sport, I think, is a great thing to have as a person. It makes you competitive. It allows you to understand how to work in a team, and you gain a really cool skill as well that you can play and use anytime. Um, and yeah, another thing I guess that's important is it's really what you want to make out of it. If you have super high expectations, then that should be sort of the mindset and approach heading into how you look at your entire application. But if you want to just get in, for me personally, I just wanted to get into a good school. And obviously trying to go to what may be classified as a very good school or excellent school. And I just, working hard throughout the 4 years, obviously, doing stuff in and around school, obviously thing. But yeah, essays are a hard one for me, at least. I'd say I struggle with them, doing a lot of last minute work. But having like sort of someone or a group of people who could help you through that, I think makes a lot of big difference. If you're someone that prefers to work by yourself, my only advice is start a little ahead of time, because with essays and just generally in writing, you'll realize that you can say the same thing in a better way after you write about it and you let it simmer in your mind. um, yeah, and I'd say on the general, don't worry so much. Just apply to wherever you think would be nice, and have fun with it. Like you're only going to do it once, uh, at least until if you get a master's degree. So enjoy it. It's not life or death. I know it seems like that, and from a high school student's perspective, but wherever you go, I like to think that you will find and be around like-minded people, and it doesn't matter where that is. That's always a good thing, and it's better. I'd say it's probably better to be around, good people or people that you can understand, agree with, and you know so maybe like not necessarily have the same opinions or worldviews, but like-minded individuals. I'd say that's probably more important than being in a better ranked university, because it's really about like your social and people experience at the end of the day. Your education is more or less the same throughout. It's most of the people like you're surrounded by that makes a big difference.
We have a question from one of our participants who is interested in UMich specifically. As a student, maybe you can help him with this. He's asking if he wants to apply to UMich, but his SAT grades don't match the requirements, whether he should go through with it.
Okay, so again, I'm not an admissions officer. I don't represent the uni in any way, but from my best guess of what's important, what's not important, if your SAT grades aren't that good, I think it's fine. If you think it's decent and something that may be a positive to your application, I suggest put them. Um, and I don't know if it's a requirement to submit them now. I remember my time, because of COVID, it was an optional thing. But if it is a requirement, I guess you have to. But that doesn't need to be the focus of your application. It definitely isn't. For a lot of students, um, you know, doing well on the SATs and ACT requires a very specific, weird set of skills. And that's not an offense to anyone who like thinks they're good at it. That's really good too. But it's a very sort of weird way of testing understanding and knowledge. And if you don't do well at it, don't worry. Just focus on, other parts of your application, your extracurriculars. Um, you know, Having good essays can really make a big difference. And good essays could carry like what you guys may feel is like a poor application. Like a good essays can be like a huge thing. And vice versa. Good extracurriculars can also help, not the best essays. Yeah, but definitely do apply to UMich. If if you want to reach out and ask like more questions, I hope my response helped you. But if you have more questions, just feel free to email me. I'm sure we can share that at the end.
I have a question that I'd like to make on behalf of all the participants. I know a lot of people watching this right now, they have some anxiety about picking a major. So could you talk us through how you specifically picked mechanical engineering and why it appealed to you?
Yeah. Again, I'd like to start off by saying that I was very lucky to know from a pretty like youngish age that I wanted to do something in engineering. And I think I was in a very fortunate position. It's very tough if that sort of indication somewhere along in life during high school doesn't happen, which is very, very common. So you're not alone. I know a lot of friends. I know a lot of people and have a lot of friends, very close friends who, even though we're in the second year of uni, sort of have existential crises about what to study. So it's a totally novel thing. But I guess more about me is I loved math and physics in high school, so it kind of seemed like a pretty straightforward path. And there was a time where I thought economics and finance would actually be, super interesting to me. And I dedicated quite a bit of time to that. in year 11, and it didn't work out. When I say it didn't work out, I just didn't find it interesting. It was pretty boring, like after just getting more into it for me. And that again, not trying to offend anyone who may go into it or wants to go into it. I'm sure it's a I mean, it is a great field. And if it interests you, that's great. But having math and physics as like two subjects that I thought I was good at and really enjoyed helped me a lot. And I guess for like a good measure, if you want to be a mechanical engineer, is if you're at all interested in how things work. And I guess a big misconception that people have is, if you're a mechanical engineer, you're just going to be sitting in some garage or workshop with, with tools and working on an engine. You'd be wearing overalls and have like black marks on your face. It's totally not like that. Please don't be like discouraged and think mechanical engineering is like that. It's a lot of critical decision making and understanding how things actually come and work together, whether that's a device or a system. And I guess with all those things in mind, those are the stuff that I kind of was always fascinated about when I was younger, and it led me to where I am. Yeah.
Mehul, you have your hand up if you just.
So I just wanted to ask quickly. I've read and heard that UMich has a good deal of research labs, and I wanted to ask, how do you go about with working on your regular coursework as well as research? I know that they're separate. How do you go into integrating the two of them? At college?
Yeah, of course. So I don't do research, but I do know how students get involved in it. There are various programs based on whatever department you're a part of. So I'm a part of Michigan's mechanical engineering department in the College of Engineering. That's the whole technical breakdown of it. And, there are various sort of openings and opportunities that get shared by email, and they fit pretty well into your schedule. You obviously work with the professor or PhD student with whatever thesis they're doing, whatever like research study or project they're working on, and you sort of help them with what. That's like my best answer to the question. And in terms of like fitting that into your schedule, um, if research is something that you definitely want to do, well, I know I can speak for like Michigan at least, that there's a lot of opportunities, and they like, professors know that you also have classes. And so that kind of understanding goes a long way in making your schedule and work and managing your time around it. But for other unis as well, like at least in America, if you go to a pretty good STEM school, there's going to be tons and tons of research opportunities. And it's like I haven't got into it yet myself. I only have very little experience, but if it is your sort of cup of tea, there's a lot of opportunities, and yeah, I definitely recommend, and it's very easy to fit within your schedule. And I kind of want to go back to the previous question about sort of like not figuring out your major. I wanted to give like a bit of general advice, like help out everyone and what they're thinking. Way of looking at it is the most important thing that you should be focusing on is what you're interested in, whether that's from a subject standpoint of view or in the world, like what fascinates you. And don't sort of limit your mind to just thinking about like very professional disciplines and like fields like medicine or law or science. Just think like, okay, I'm really fascinated about cooking. and like list it down. And once you've sort of created that, you can then look at what am I good at. So of all the things that you are, you like, identify the ones that you're good at. And, you know, this is like the good at part isn't a necessary requirement. You can be pretty bad. You can be like terrible at something, but if you're passionate about it, I will 100 times or 100 recommend doing that over something you don't like but are very good at. Yeah, because your passion will carry you forward, and you will like make an effort to learn about it. And also I realized like if you're like in high school, I think unless you're really dedicated and go on to like multiple websites to read course descriptions and syllabi, I think you have not a very clear idea of what each discipline and major is, which is totally fine. It's just like if you think you'd be good at it, that's even good enough. And if you're interested in it, that's probably an indicator that you should look into it. And if you see what it is about, like maybe you're a student who's interested in CS, but you unfortunately couldn't or didn't take computer science at school, at IB, or if any of you are from other curriculums, you didn't take computer science. That's fine. Like it's not the end of the road. You can obviously learn that stuff or like look into it outside of school and outside the classroom. And if it makes sense and it's interesting, go for it. You can definitely learn a lot and also do a lot with it. And if it doesn't work out, that's fine too. You made a good decision by not taking it at school. So, you can like pat yourself on the back, but keeping what you're interested in and good at the center are pretty good approaches, I'd say. And I hope that helped everyone a bit better.
Mhm. Sorry, Umar, I'm just gonna like because I have a like
No, go ahead.
quick latch on question to that. And it's because I myself, I'm thinking of applying of mechanical engineering, but I have my own, doubts. And I think anyone would going into college, like you said, you can read about the majors, but you don't really know what they're about. So how accessible is the whole changing majors and or changing colleges within universities? Like how accessible is that whole process? And um, what was your, if you've had any experience, like any friends or anything who have done something like that, how was it?
Yeah, so I can speak for the US again, and I think it only applies to the US really, but
Yeah.
things are super flexible here. And I think that's a good thing and a bad thing. You can switch in and out of majors pretty easily at most universities. I'd say some places have very specific sort of restrictions. Like some colleges, their computer science or engineering, program and department are very like super selective compared to the entire university as a whole. And let's say you applied in to study like molecular biology when you really wanted to do biomedical engineering. Uh, they might not entertain that if they are one of those unis, which I think there are out there. I know of a few. I'm not going to say them. I don't want to dissuade anyone. They're not bad universities at all. But if you do have dilemmas like 1 or 2 years down the line, I'd say you still have a lot of options, and they're pretty comfortable and helpful in allowing you to switch and find your right path. And my girlfriend actually, she's actually going through sort of a change, like a college or major change process, and it's very possible to do that. And I'd say don't worry. Like there's no life or death decision made yet. So yeah.
Before we wrap up, I'd just like to ask a question specifically about teaching in the US. So I know a lot of us, I mean, we're all high school students, so we only really know about like high school teachers and sort of a learning environment in that context. But what's the difference, or when you transition from high school to college, what's the difference in how professors teach and how classrooms operate? Could you talk about that?
Yeah, I think so far I don't have an awful lot of experience. I've not done a lot of courses, but in my experience so far, you'd be surprised. Like I think I was surprised definitely that it's very similar to high school in how they teach. You know, it's there's no learning object. Well, there are actually learning objectives, funnily enough, and they like I can speak for like math and physics sort of courses. So they introduce concepts and they start off with a few examples. Okay, this is how to solve them. And if you have questions, usually more often than not, most classrooms, there are about up to 30, 40 people, you can easily ask a question and the professors are more than happy to kind of stop the class and like answer those kind of questions, which is a really good thing. And then yeah, like some of them sometimes like the professor believes in a group work or like working with your peers kind of philosophy, so you may do that some point during the lesson, or otherwise it's sort of like just like learning content and then answering, like solving questions as a classroom and then sort of discussing. So that stuff happens. And then there's obviously like other kinds of lectures. Like I'm doing a course right now where there's a professor who quite literally he's standing on stage and speaks and just stops maybe to like take a breath and then continue speaking. And my job as a student is to kind of like look at the slides they're sharing and any important things he's talking about and just make notes. And a few notes is good enough. So there's a wide variety. And that's my experience. You may have something that's different. But it's pretty similar to high school and it's done in a very easy way. Like, you need not like come from that kind of background. Just being a student, like who wants to learn is a good approach to any classroom.
Awesome. Wait.
Yeah, go ahead, Umar. I'll go last. Okay.
Okay. Before we close this section, we have two questions from the audience members. One of them is, what are your plans for after college as an engineer, for you specifically?
Okay, that's a very tough question. Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet is the best answer I can give. I definitely do want to work. I am not in like looking to get a master's right away. I'm interested, like I said, I was interested in sort of renewable energy and sustainability, and I sort of want to take that forward. And if I can get any job in that sector or industry, that would be my sort of goal right now. Things could change, but that's what I'm passionate about. So yeah.
Awesome. And Tej, one before you ask your question, just one more question from the audience. What's the biggest change between school and college?
All right, so this is a great question, I think. So in school, I think the biggest thing is that you're living at home. So every day, if you're not in the classroom, you're at home, which is a very, very familiar environment. I presume it is like that. And even when you're in school, it's a very familiar environment. The people around you, you've known them for at least a couple months. Some of them you've known them for like most of your life. And that sort of familiarity in a way disappears in college. I think that's one of the biggest changes. I faced it a lot by my first semester. So sort of this time last year, it was a pretty tough like adjustment process of not having anything that I was familiar to. being in a totally new environment, new living space, new people around me, like new classmates, new professors, a different accent. That stuff also like, makes things interesting. It's difficult to get used to that at the start, but over time you like meet, like I said, like-minded people, or not necessarily like-minded people, but you just meet people, and there are about like many, like hundreds and thousands of other students who are freshmen and coming into college for the first time like you, who you can like bounce off your relationship, your sort of like experiences and feelings with, and that usually works pretty well. And having like, you guys will probably go to a college where there's like everyone is new around you. There may be people that you do know, but I think that's a good thing, putting yourself into a new environment. It really allows you to grow and sort of figure out who you are as an individual. You can redefine yourself, because all throughout school and being at home, your family and friends have always known you to sort of be this kind of person. And it's maybe like you might feel like, oh, okay, there's something, or there's a part of me that I'm not exploring yet. And college is kind of like it kind of lifts up the gates, because you don't have that pressure to sort of conform or like fit into that mold or personality that you've set from a pretty young age, or not necessarily young age, but somewhere along the line. And you can sort of feel free to explore anything. And yeah, I think it's pretty liberating, and you get good exposure. And that's one of the big changes in college, really. You meet a lot of new people from different backgrounds, and you learn a lot about yourself. And obviously, I guess the more like things that are grounded and material, yeah, I have to cook for myself, which sucks. I have to sort of walk everywhere, or like take a bus. My parents aren't dropping me to school anymore. My parents aren't around me. You have to actually like make time to spend time with your family, spend time with your high school friends. That stuff's also important to keep in touch. And you're also always on the go. You're making decisions. You're like, okay, I have an hour between this class and that class. Do I want to go and eat, or do I want to like go and study? Do I want to like meet a friend in that time? You're making all those, it may seem like small decisions, but there's many, many small decisions that you're making by yourself as an individual. And that experience just really allows you to grow. Yeah. So I hope that answered your question. But yeah,
Yeah.
college is a lot of fun as well. So, do come. It's a good experience.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I think that was great. That pretty much covered my question as well. So thank you so much. And I think every one of us was able to take at least one thing from that interview that could really help us. And thank you so much for that, Aryan. If there are any more questions, guys, please put them in the chat. I know we've already addressed all the ones that are there currently, but if there's any more from our attendees, we'll just I think just take a little 1 minute, 2 minute break just to see, let the questions come through. We can answer those while they're coming through, and then we'll move on.
And Kshitij and Umar, if you want to share my email with everyone, so that like, they can reach out as well, like that's totally fine too. I'm more than happy to like help anyone with any questions or doubts.
Sure. Yeah, I'll put it on the chat. All right. Yeah. So I've put Aryan's email in the chat function, and I hope everyone received it. So like you mentioned, any questions that you may not feel free to ask here, go ahead, email them directly. And yeah.
All right, it doesn't look like we're getting any more questions, so we could probably move on. So Aryan, you're free to stay if you want, or you can go. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really informative.
I'll stay on, sorry. Yeah, I'll stay on till the end.
Okay,
Thanks.
sounds good.
Okay.
So next up, we have a team member highlight. Mehel's going to be talking about his aspirations and passions within space science as a whole, and he is one of the co-founders of the Cosmos Society.
All right, I'll get started here. So I wanted to go over what I would like to call STEM research in high school as a hopeful aerospace engineer. So what I have done so far in terms of research in high school and what I'm looking forward to do at college, and hopefully it might inspire some of you to take up research opportunities at high school level or perhaps in college as well. And as you will see, they're all linked to space, I guess. So a quick introduction about myself. Like Umar said, my name is Mehul, and I'm the co-founder of the Cosmos Society. Have been taking place for the past 6 months or so. Apart from that, it was a design engineering competition that I participated in 2 years ago. I've also been a runner-up at another robotics and engineering challenge called the Planet X Challenge, hosted by the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. And the other two are my research activities so far, which is having written a paper and presented it at at an international student conference. It's called the AIAA Region 7 Student Conference. And I'm also a published author at GAI, which is the Journal of Emerging Investigators. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the paper that I talked about that has been that I presented at a research conference. So it was titled "Evaluating Energy Sources for Use on Mars." Now, what's this all about? So, and the reason I've written "Start Basic" there is that I believe, in retrospect, the topic that I chose was quite basic, right? So this was sort of the layout of my research paper. It included, as you can imagine, as you know, a general introduction about the topic, existing research into power on Mars, and the entire paper was structured like a research article, which meant that it didn't add any new data or new findings to the field of aerospace, but instead it looked at existing data and existing solutions, and then wrote a paper commenting on that. So this paper, it looked at solar power, nuclear power, and wind energy as sources of energy on Mars. I looked at the historical context of it, the advantages and disadvantages, as well as I calculated a comparison factor. Now, this comparison factor, there were 3 of them, and I talked about the implications of it, as well as other comparison factors like usability of the energy source and geographical locations. Before I reached the conclusions, and I talked about the limitations of my study and the different energy sources, as well as possible future studies. So this was essentially the paper that I had written over last year, actually last summer, which means it was just before my junior year of high school, or before year 12 if you're following the year system, or grade 11 if you're following the trade system. That was when I'd written this paper. Now, what I would suggest for you guys, if you're looking to pursue research, is to reach out to professors and try to do that in your field as much as possible. Now, what I did for the paper that I've previously shown, was prior to my summer break, before I started writing, I had reached out to a bunch of different, I would guess somewhere between 10 to 20 professors in Dubai, where I live, and some abroad as well, at different universities. But I tried to look for the ones that were specialized in energy sources and aerospace, or the conjunction between the two. And the way I did this was I would simply open up the faculty page of different universities, go to the mechanical engineering or engineering directory, and then look for professors who have listed aerospace or power generation as one of their research interests. I will tell you guys that you should not expect a reply from any of them. The reason is these professors, as you can imagine, do not have much time especially for high school researchers. With that said, there are many professors who are willing to help out students because they identify that research can come from people of different ages. There isn't specifically, I would say, an age restriction on writing research. I would say introducing yourself to professors and talking to them about your idea will help you elevate your research as a whole. And also they will help you introduce you to the world of academia or research, writing and publishing and the entire process. So that's one of the advantages of reaching out to professors. Oh, and by the way, the professor that I reached out to and got a response from was the previous speaker at our previous webinar, Dr. Philip Paniker. He used to teach at NYUAD, and he very recently left the school actually. And he was into, as I said, aerospace engineering and specifically astronautical engineering. Right, I've described reaching out to professors and writing the paper. Now I want to talk about what comes after that. So there are two ways that can either go on separately or they can go on together. So the first method I would suggest is identifying an appropriate student journal or a regular journal. So research papers are often published in journals, and other researchers or people involved in that field will look at the scientific literature to see if it applies to any of their uses. And yeah, it's often quite useful. That's the entire purpose of doing research, to add to the scientific field. And I would also suggest that do not just look for the high ranking ones. There are multiple websites that look at rankings for journals, and you'll often want to apply to the best one or try to get your paper on the best ones. But I would suggest looking at the what's called the scope of the journal, and that will help you identify if your paper fits into that journal. And that would be a good way for you to identify your journal. Once you get in contact with them, I would suggest that you follow their peer review process in a very straightforward way, as I said, to a T, because you don't want to, I would say, like annoy them or make them not want to publish your paper. And another best practice is to always respond quickly to ensure that your paper is published and your work is seen by the rest of the world. Another method that you could also employ is identifying research conferences. I was lucky enough for my research mentor, the professor that I previously mentioned, to have been involved in the AIAA, which was the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics, which was a body that conducted research conferences at different levels, including student research conferences. Now, student research conferences are often for students at an undergraduate or master's level, but I was able to email them and find out that they had a high school student category for the conference that I was applying for, which was great for me because I was a high school student and I preferred not competing with the undergraduate students, right? So I'd written my paper, I submitted it to them, and I'd submitted it, I would say, in September, and the conference took place at the end of November. So there's quite a bit of a gap, which means that you need to submit your paper or just your abstract of your research in advance or well in advance, and you need to look out for the deadlines there. My specific conference was supposed to be in person in Australia, but it got changed at the last minute and they made it virtual. even though the pandemic was slowing down. But yeah, I guess Australia's rules were a bit tight back then. So my conference was virtual, and I was required to present a presentation about my paper, which was evaluated by a number of judges and then scored. And I found out that I'd won first place in my category, which came with a bonus prize of $100. Yeah, so that was my publishing. And I think this is my last slide. So this was my experience with AIAA. Like I said, I've already talked about some of this on the previous slide. It was recommended by my mentor. I used the online portals and I contacted some people there, and I presented my research. This is just a snippet from the presentation, which included different parts of my research paper itself, and this won first place in the high school category. There are a number of different institutions like this, for not only for aeronautics and astronautics, but also for astrophysics and astronomy. Conversely, if you want to look at something away from the space sciences, you will find organizations for those as well. And you can look at publishing or presenting your research in those avenues. Yeah, and for me, looking forward, over the course of this year, I've started to learn MATLAB and ANSYS Fluent, which is used for CFD and a bunch of different applications. And MATLAB is used again for a bunch of different applications, but I've been using it for machine learning. I've just been familiarizing myself with these softwares and systems so that I can put them to use at colleges with top research facilities, where I also hope to study nuclear power cycles and plasma dynamics. So far, I haven't got near as much as understanding of these concepts in order to write a paper. So I've just been reading up on recent discoveries and things like that, preparing myself for college the best I can. Right, so that's it. Yeah, that's all. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, I'll be willing to take them. And yeah, good luck on all your research projects and endeavors.
Thank you. I was Meho. We're gonna probably wait like 1 to 2 minutes, see if any questions roll in. And if not, we'll move on to the concluding part of our segment.
Right, sure.
All right, so sort of doesn't look like there are any questions. That was a very thorough presentation, so I'm not surprised. I think Meho covered pretty much every base that anyone could ask about. So that's great. Just gonna move on to the concluding remarks. If anyone has any questions, that they come up with later, I think they can either like put them in the chat if you have the call going, or Meho can put his email and then they can directly, contact him.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. So thanks, Meho. And so we're just gonna quickly go over some things that we here at the Cosmos Society are doing. Umar, if you want to just jump in.
Yes, so we have a couple activities and interesting things coming up. So for one, we have a stargazing activity that we hope we can bring to an international scale within the next 1 to 2 months. So the basic idea is, if you're a member of the Cosmos Society, we're going to be sharing specific like heavenly bodies to focus on, and you share your pictures, you send them into our Instagram, and we can basically just compare our findings. And it's just a way to embrace the ethos of unity here at the Cosmos Society. Also, we have a podcast, the Cosmic Colloquium. The next episode will probably be released within the next couple weeks, I would say. And so far we have 2 episodes out. Unfortunately, the one of the main topics of the first episode was the Artemis 1 launch, but again, that got delayed. This is the second time now. It'll probably get delayed by the third time. So I hope it doesn't get delayed on, I believe, September 23rd, so we can discuss it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and on another front, we have a flagship project running with the Cosmos Society, where a few of us from our core team, me, Meho, Umar, and a couple other friends, we're constructing a moon rover, a lunar rover, well, a working prototype of it. And sort of the Artemis 1 mission was our inspiration for doing it. And of course, we hope that that is successful. And also we'll be looking to host some more seminars in the coming future with maybe more students, or like Aryan and Meho, or other guest speakers like we had in our last seminar, to give you viewers a sort of more holistic idea of the space sciences and what you can do within it, and how you can go about navigating your interest. If you would like to join our team or be more involved in the Cosmos Society, please visit the website, which is cosmossociety.org, or send us an email at the.cosmos.soc@gmail.com. If you would like to take part in any activities, or if you would like to send in some articles, or if you just want to get an idea of what we do, and maybe gain some experience and some help from us, some guidance to further explore the topic. And you can view what we're doing at the Cosmos Society through our Instagram and LinkedIn, which is at @the.cosmos.society. I guess that's just it. Thank you all for joining, and I hope you guys have a good time exploring your college applications and the astro field.
And thank you to Aryan and Mahal as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. All right, have a great day, guys.
You can get back to watching quality art.
All right. Thanks, guys. All the best. And yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out. But thank you all for having me. And yeah, good luck, everyone. Enjoy the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, you too.
See you guys next time.
Thank you.